Welcome, my friends, to our Divine Destiny study today, and come follow me as we look in the 14th chapter of Matthew and the 6th chapter of Mark and the 5th and 6th chapter of John. My friends, this is an exciting week for a couple of reasons. I guess the biggest one that I get excited about is because this is the week before General Conference, and we get the opportunity to prepare ourselves to hear from the prophets and apostles and the general authorities of the church. I love, my friends, that you and I this year in the the New Testament get the chance to spend time with the Savior. We get to visit, so to speak, with Him verse by verse and learn as many things as we can. Granted, we only see about 3 years of His life, more or less, but we get a chance to associate with Him. Why is that important? It's important because if you learn from your mom when you were a kid, you become like those you associate with. It really is true that you and I actually can become closer to the Savior by studying this. We're going to see that in the 14th chapter of Matthew, but I guess the part that I want to focus on today, one is a part about General Conference, and the second is this part about what happens with the Savior when he finds out about John the Baptist, his cousin. As you watch in the first part of chapter 14 of Matthew, we find that John the Baptist is beheaded. And as you know, that not only was he the preparator, but he was the Savior's cousin. And I guess what interests me here is not so much the circumstances around what happened and what caused John the Baptist to be beheaded, but how the Savior responds. And why I bring that up, I guess, is important to me because we live in a world that is about as tumultuous as it has ever been. And I think that sometimes we think that never has there been such tumultuous as it has been in my life. And while things are definitely getting more tense and contentious, my friends, that has always been the Savior's plan, contention, because that drives us away from the Spirit. But notice what happens here when the Savior finds out that his cousin is beheaded. If you drop down into about verse 10 and 11, he was beheaded in 10. His head was taken to Herod's daughter, gave it to her mother. Then they took up his body, and then they went to Jesus. Okay, so here now we find ourselves in verse 13 of Matthew 14. When Jesus heard of it, he departed thence by the ship into a desert apart from where the people had heard thereof. And they followed him on foot out of the city. And Jesus went forth and saw a great multitude and was moved with compassion towards them and healed their sick. He didn't do anything. He did not focus on the fact that John the Baptist, his cousin, had just been beheaded, at least according to the records that we see. He did not focus on the contention. My friends, when you have that experience in your life, and I have that experience, we have a choice. Do we focus on the contention or do we focus on the Spirit? Do we focus on what we have in our control or what we don't have in our control? Now, could the Savior have gone and, well, he could have done anything, my friends. You come up with whatever story you want. Could he have gone and dealt with Herod? Of course he could have. Could he have gone and got John the Baptist's head and taken it to his body and put it back and made everything okay? Of course he could have. But he didn't, because those things were done for a purpose. And we know that John the Baptist has been resurrected because he appeared to Joseph Smith, and all is good. See, but the Savior understood that. People have to be allowed their agency, even when it hurts other people. But most importantly is, what do you and I do? Can we follow the example of the Savior? My friends, when you have a choice to follow contention or walk away, the Savior walked away and focused on the people and focused on healing them. That's fascinating to me, my friends, that you and I can learn to be that way. We live in a world which gives us opportunities every single day to focus on the contention or to focus on walking away and focusing on turning our lives over to the Savior and engaging in encouraging and uplifting. And what did he do? The first trait that it says that he performed after he learned of John the Baptist's beheading was he was moved with compassion. Man, how often do you feel compassion right after you learn of such a tragedy? That took mental focus, my friends. And my point in telling that story is not so that you and I can go, well, that's the Savior. No, it's because he displays a trait that you and I can learn from him. As we get ready for General Conference this whole week, my friends, I want to share with you a quick story. And it comes back to what I've mentioned several times about what Joseph Smith said. Joseph Smith made the observation that it should be you and I's desire in this life to see the face of the Savior. Why? Not for the event of seeing the face of the Savior, but because all of the activity that it would take leading up to that would help us in our becoming like him. Now, don't get me wrong. What a glorious day that will be when you and I have the opportunity to stand in front of the Savior and thank him. But it starts with a desire and then the becoming, so that the day that it happens, it will be a glorious day. But my friends, it happens. It happens to prophets and apostles, we know for sure. But it happens to others, and those experiences rarely get shared from prophets and apostles or others because of its sacred nature. But it's important for you and I to understand that it happens and that it can happen to you. Upon the death of Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow was walking in the temple. And, well, fast forward just a little bit farther past that. Lorenzo Snow had been prophet for a little bit of time, and he found himself in the temple one night late in the Salt Lake Temple with his granddaughter, Allie. And it was late, they were getting ready to leave the temple, and it was just the two of them. And as they were walking down the hall of the Salt Lake Temple, President Snow said to his granddaughter, Allie, I want you to stop right here, and I want to tell you something. He said, right here, where you are standing, is where the Savior, Jesus Christ, appeared to me upon the death of President Wilford Woodruff. And he said, Allie, I want you to know that. I want you to know that I have seen the Savior. And it happened right here. My friends, I share that story with you because the men and women that we will hear from this coming weekend, they know more than just the mind and the will of our Savior. They know him. But they don't know him any differently than you and I can know him. It's just that they have put their lives in a place where they did things like have compassion towards other people and served the Master. If you and I will serve the Master, whether we see the Savior in mortality or not, we will get to know him because we will do the things that he asks his prophets and apostles to do, which is simply what? Feed his sheep. It's what he went and did right after John the Baptist was beheaded. He went to the people and served them and healed their sick. My friends, in the world today, you're going to see contention. I invite you and I to turn away, to walk away, and go and serve. That's what this world needs more of, is your and my serving like the Savior served, blessing and helping and encouraging other people, using his priesthood to heal other people, to serve them. When you and I do that, my friends, I promise you that we will be doing the things like President Snow did in order to get to know the Savior. Because the more things, if you want to know somebody, do what they do. If we will do the things the Savior does, we will get to know him in a way that will bring the compassion, the kindness, the peace that only the Savior can give. But it only can come if we do what he did. My friends, I invite you and I to take hold of our divine nature and our divine destiny this day. Prepare for General Conference coming up this weekend by serving as many people this week as you and I can. And I promise you that as you and I do that, we will be prepared to hear the messages that are coming to us this weekend through our prophets and apostles and leaders that will be the mind and the will of the Savior Jesus Christ. Have a great day.